You're listening to the Building Stronger Agents podcast, where we interview the top solo agents, team leaders, and brokers across the country to see what makes them thrive in today's market and beyond. This episode of the Building Stronger Agents podcast is brought to you by Social Orchard. At Social Orchard, we help successful real estate agents nurture their past clients in Sphere 4 to 5 days a week so that you can never be forgotten. We're going to help you build a community with a private Facebook group. We provide all of the content, we help you engage and have conversations with your Sphere. All you have to do is invite your Facebook friends, grow the group, and engage with the comments daily. With your private friends and family Facebook group, you are never going to be forgotten again. And over time, your referral and repeat business is going to be stronger than it ever has been before. Visit socialorchard.com today. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Will Penny here. I got my buddy Mark Young. He's our co-host. And Mark and I talk a lot about what's going on in the marketplace. And this time of year, everyone's getting geared up for their New Year's resolutions. And I've been doing this business for almost 36 years. Mark's in his 17th year. I got in when I was 19. I think, what were you, Mark, 23?
I was 23.
23. So Mark's 40 now, and I'm almost 55. And basically what we want to chat about today is so many agents are just struggling with how they are going to get and make 2024 a good year. And my fear is people make New Year's resolutions, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, but they make New Year's resolutions without any clear path or path of action towards having any chance of having those New Year's resolutions pan out. My analogy has always been a tube of toothpaste. Whether it's time or money, it's why Social Security doesn't always work, because people blow through 3/4 of it the first week, and then they've got 3 weeks left to deal with a quarter. Mark and I have joked around about that. But if we think we've got too much time, then we end up blowing a ton of it. With a tube of toothpaste, you put a nice, huge 1.5-inch long strip and pour it all over the counter on a brand new tube. And then towards the end, you're budgeting it out. And if you did that through the whole tube, you get a lot more out of it. And that's how it is with time and money. If you have too much in your account, you'll spend more. If you feel like you've got too much time, you're going to kill it. And we're going to try to hopefully put our arms around that a little bit today. So Mark, dude, you got in right before the housing crash. You've had ups and downs just like I have. What is it that has made Mark Young be successful no matter what the outside is saying?
So thanks for having me on, Will. At the risk of sounding arrogant, the only way I can say it is that I look at myself as the quarterback, right? So I'm going to bet on myself every single game. I can't control the outcome, or I hopefully can control the outcome. I can't control the circumstances that surround it sometimes, whether it's in your personal life or the external circumstances that you have, going on with the financial crisis from 2008 through 2011 or 12. Or currently we've got interest rates that everybody's having a conversation about. You've got this Sitzer Burnett lawsuit that people are talking about. The reality is we have all these different external things that we can either buy into and let control us or dictate kind of our day-to-day outlook, or we can sort of pretend like none of that's existing and not like in a stupid way, but just pretend like, okay, regardless of what's happening, here are the things I'm going to do day in and day out.
How do you keep your head there so that you don't, because I've known you for a long time, and through everything, you always are putting transactions together. So in your head, how do you keep it so that you don't let that stuff in?
Well, there's I think the serious answer, which I'll get to in a second. And then there's what's probably a little bit more of a colorful answer, which is I can't sing or dance. I'm not that great at sports. I enjoy to golf every once in a while, but I dropped out of college. So this is kind of all I've got, right? So I kind of have to make it work. aside from that, it's all I've ever known and done as a full time job and a career. It started as a job and it turned into a career. So to me, there's no alternative. I can't think about slacking one day because I have my night shift at my part-time job that's going to help to pay the bills. This is how I have made a living for the last 17 years. So um, there's, I think, in the soup recipe, I guess there's probably a lot of different ingredients, but the main component would be stick to itiveness, kind of putting your head down and just forgetting about the noise and doing the day-to-day activities that for me ended up hitting, or at least attempting to hit, the goals that I had in front of me, which weren't huge, lofty, audacious goals.
So everybody's talking about our why. It seems social media has made it so, we're either talking about our morning routine or we're talking about our why or whatever. Do you think about that? I mean, do you have like a pretty open why in your head? Do you focus on that? Or or are you just thinking more about making money or getting through the day? I mean, what is it?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it
You
would
got
sound
two
really.
beautiful kids, so I'm assuming that even if you're not thinking about them, you know that they got nobody else to lean on. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's
I'm not
a
talking about another parent. I mean, you have
right.
to you have to provide for them.
Sure. Yeah. No, for me, I don't really. My why is, this is how I provide, whether it's for my kids, myself, friends, family, whatever. So my why is, all right, I have to put transactions together. I have to get them up on the board because I have a certain amount of money that goes out every month and I've got to refill the tank. I don't have, I've never made a vision board. I don't,
I haven't either.
that's not true. When I first got licensed, I made a vision board within the first year and it hit and didn't, and I quickly realized that the Lamborghini, wasn't going to happen overnight. So for me, it was the last time that I ever made a vision
Or the
board.
six pack.
Exactly. There's no reason, let's keep it real. So no, I don't. My why is, this is my job and I have to do a good job at it. And aside from um, the external things, which are my kids, my bank account, making sure that my bills are paid, that kind of stuff, there are clients that are both seasoned with me and new that are trusting me, and I want to do a good job.
Yeah, you don't want to let them down. You don't want to let them down, I'm sure.
Yep.
Are there any, we talk about hacks. I'll give you one of my hacks and then I want to hear yours. So back in the day when I was younger, I would try to do a business plan. I was really good at making business plans. And I would figure out how many calls I needed to make, and I would need to get a listing, and how many listings I would need to take to get a sale, and figure out my average commission, and I'd roll that all into my how much I want to make that year, and I'd spend a lot of time making it all nice and clean. But the one thing I never did was look at it again. I mean, I would make that plan
Yeah.
and I would get distracted and go do something else, and I would never ever look at it again. I was terrible at it. So my thermometer was always tied to actions. A lot of, like, if I made a big goal, say I want to make $100,000 in a year, it didn't mean anything to me. So I would just have to focus on, my first goal was to make one sale a month. Like when I first got in the business, I wanted to make one sale a month. And then as I started doing better, then I wanted to make 50,000 a year. And I remember sitting in this bullpen at Century 21 and this other guy, Al Horvath, and we were both looking at each other going, if we could just make $50,000 a year, all of our needs would be met, right? I'm sure when you were 23, what did you think of back then when you first got in?
As far as like to
like where you thought this business would take you back then, like when I was 19,
$100,000 a year.
100 grand a year. Yeah, mine was 50.
Yeah.
Now I'm surprised you're not lashing back about my age and saying
I'm saving that for the offline comments.
50,000 when I was young would probably be the equivalent of 100,000 when you were.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would my coach, my business coach, always says I would win dirty. I would just try to get one appointment a day or a minimum of 4 a week. And I would figure that was 4 a week times 50 weeks is 200 a year. And if I wanted to sell 60 or 70 houses, I should be good to go as long as I was able to convert those. So I would, when I first, my big thing was for sale by owners. And I would just call FSBOs for sale by owners until I got an appointment to go look at their house and meet with them. And if I could do that, and sometimes I would push for 2 appointments. So that way I wouldn't have to make calls the next day. So that's what I would do. Because I knew that if I got 4 appointments a week, then I would be able to convert at least 25% of them. And that would be, so I guess my point is I deduced, boiled down like the actions that I would need to take. Because if I said I'm going to make 2 hours of phone calls, I might come out of that with nothing. So did you ever do anything like that?
Yeah, it was kind of the anti-vision board. I had for probably 4 or 5 years, I had a no board, and it was just a little
no board.
Yeah, it was just a little dry erase board, maybe like that big, that I had on my desk, and I wanted to get 10 hard no's a day. Well, and a hard no would be like, screw you, like I'm not talking to you, like, remove me from your list. Yeah. That's a no. A voicemail is not a no. A hang up on you is not a no. But I wanted to get 10 hard no's where I didn't want to make the next phone call.
And what was that? Is that kind of like someone when they wear like rusty chainmail underwear just to punish themselves, or what was the reason? Horsehair underwear. A martyr. Yeah, no. You're the real estate martyr.
Yeah, no. For me, I did it because for 2 things. It was a paradigm shift. That sounds super fancy, but to say that, like, we're, I think, raised in our society where, like, no, like if you're hung up on, or no, your rejection's this, big ugly animal. But that's because nobody wants to face it. But if you go into it, like, if you look at what a buffalo, like a herd of buffaloes will run into the storm because they want to get the storm over with as quick as possible. Side note, I just heard that one time. I have no idea if that's true, but it sounds good. So
sounds amazing.
So for me, I knew I wanted to get the nose over with. So I knew if I got 10 people, I knew what it took to get 10 hard no's, which was more than 10 phone calls. And so at some point in that day, I would get a yes. And the yes wasn't like a sale. The yes would have been an appointment set. So
if you got a yes, but you'd only had 7 hard no's, are you making more calls until you got the 3?
No.
So so it was 10 no's or enough that it would take for you to get a yes.
Yeah. And I'm embarrassed to say that, but no, yeah, I wouldn't. I celebrated the win, and that was it.
That's all you need. That's really good, dude. That's really, really good. So you just flipped it on its back, and most people are scared to pick up the phone because of the no. Mm-hmm. You would make the no the focus.
Yeah. So for me, I just knew.
You're not making that up just for this. You actually did that.
No, yeah, I'm not making it up. I was over on 59 in Stowe, and I had a little no board in the bullpen.
And you would just write no every time you got a no, or you do
I just had a hash.
Is it like hashtags or hash?
I just did hash marks.
Whoa.
And it kind of became a game of excitement. Like I could tell when a no was coming, and I would already have the hash written, and the guy's like, you, and you know what I mean? And okay, bye.
Right. But that, you've taken all the power away from the calls then.
Correct.
Because the only reason that people are afraid to have conversations with strangers, which, by the way, in our combined 52 years of selling houses, the money and the gold is in the conversations with strangers.
110%.
Because the more conversations you have with people about buying or selling a home, for the time being, commissions are high. We talked about this last week. I don't think they're going anywhere. But the goal isn't to make more money. It's to string enough of these deals together, and you can make as much as you want to make. And if you take the fear of the no out of the equation, then the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, I had a mentor that he said that STP is not a motor oil. It stands for see the people. And, again, kind of maybe a corny or cheesy thing to think about, but it's true. It's the more people you talk to, the more money you'll make, period.
100%.
And the proof is if you were the best known, kind of most well-known real estate agent in Akron, let's just say, but you had limiting beliefs, or your goals were limited, or whatever the case is, and I came in town, nobody knew me, but in 12 months I talked to more people about selling real estate than you did. Who's going to make more money?
Oh yeah.
So that's 100%. It. Yeah.
A buddy of mine, Luke Acree, he's the president of Reminder Media, he said to me once, he said that they actually did a test. They went into a subdivision where a couple of agents had, they farmed there, and they made up a bogus name, a woman's name with bogus credentials and a photograph. And they sent 8 postcards over 8 days, and then 8 over 8 weeks, and then 1 a month for the rest of the year. And then they went back and they cold called, they knocked on doors at the end of the year. Like 60% of the people that answered the door said this bogus person's name. When they asked who is the most well-known real estate agent in this area, they just after that 1 year, they agreed. So it's all about consistency and about getting in front, and in your case, having the conversations, no matter how you're going to do this. So the one thing that I always found baffling is that people will put more value in an appointment to help somebody else than they will keeping commitments to themselves. And what I mean by that is, if you've got to meet somebody at the airport at 6 o'clock, there's practically no chance that you're just going to not show up. Yeah. Even though, they could get an Uber or they could call a taxi. Worst case scenario is they'll yell at you or maybe never talk to you again, but there's no real penalty other than that. But you still would go through hell or high water to meet them at the airport at 6 o'clock. But if you put in your calendar that you're going to call, 5 for sale by owners or 10 past clients or whatever at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, most of us will let anything overcome that. But if it was an appointment with somebody else to meet someone or help them at 2 o'clock, the chances of you not showing up for that are very, very low. And the point is that we actually place more value on our commitments to others. We'll put ourselves in harm's way to help others, but we won't put that same reverence in front of keeping commitments to ourselves and letting, a showing or a phone call or something basic get in our way of keeping commitments to ourselves when it comes to growing our business.
Yes. And I am guilty as charged.
So am I.
So
am I.
Right. And I think that's if you're going to go back to what I said about how I feel about myself in this business, which if you're going to bet on yourself, you have to look at your time as non-negotiable. And it's easy for me to say, right? I've, sort of already prefaced it by saying that I'm guilty as charged. But, if you have a note to send 5 texts out to past clients in the month of December to wish them happy holiday text, there's no reason that let's be honest, is going to take you, let's say 10 minutes. If you were to send out, personalized ones.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that should roll over into the following day. But there's 500 reasons that will come up that will accidentally have that thing roll over into the next day because you're not committed to that specific appointment.
With Google, I looked up the top 10 things that are Googled this morning. 2 of the top 10 were how to lose weight and how to make more money. And there's millions and millions, literally millions of search responses There's hundreds of thousands of videos. We are just completely overrun with knowledge and content. However, we're not getting any thinner. 40% of us are overweight, and between 40 and 70% are overweight or obese. The savings rate is going down in the United States, and the average income for a real estate agent isn't going up. And it's not at all tied to knowledge. Every one of us could write, if we were forced to, every real estate agent, even the ones that failed out of the business, could write down, okay, what do you need to do to be a successful agent? And they'll write it all down. And most of the failure comes from lack of motivation, discipline, and failure to take action consistently and over a long period of time. That's it. It's not knowledge.
I agree. And I also think that we're in this era, you mentioned at the beginning of the show here, that social media has, in my opinion, is in part to blame for these, get up at 4 a.m. By 4:30, you're singing songs and whatever you're doing, meditating. Right. And, you're going to go from 0 sales and you're going to make your first $1 million and your first, number one, I don't even think that's possible. Number two, if it is, your chips have to be stacked so much in your favor, right? So I'm not a big fan of having these big goals. I think that the small wins end up equal. And I know the small wins equal and will grow into a big goal.
100%. Alex Hormozi, I didn't know who he was before this year, but boy, I sure know who he is now. He's 31. He's worth about $100 million, and he made his money in the gym industry. And he's a freak about physical fitness. But I watched a video of his, and he said that all of these people, these successful people, come out and try to convince you that it's their morning routine and their miracle morning or whatever it is they do in the morning, going to the gym and all of that is what led to their success. And it's 100% not true. It's what they did after that. And you could completely eliminate they've tried to make us think that if you don't get up at a certain time, or if you don't go to bed at a certain time, or if you don't do things a certain way, then you're not going to be successful. And the fact is, it's not that. You could get up at 10 o'clock in the morning, but if you prospect as a realtor for 3 hours and get 2 appointments, and then you show houses or 2 listing appointments in the afternoon or evening, you could have huge amounts of success. And I think so many of us now are forced to believe, mainly because of social media, that we have to do things a certain way. And for me, I've never had a morning routine. I get up early twice a week to run. I know you get up to go on hikes or run as well, but it's what we do after that determines our success.
There was and look, I'm not taking anything away from the sentiment here, but there was a speech that went around maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. This Navy SEAL, he talked about the importance of making your bed, and I would say that I understand the sentiment. I think, which is actually that's a small win that will set up your day, right? So I agree with that. But in tune with that, I make my bed once a month, and that's when the cleaning people come. So, there's no magic bullet. You don't have to make your bed. You don't have to have your chai tea latte with your organic, this and that at 4:30 in the morning. You to your point, you can wake up at a reasonable time and do the things like you were saying, Alex Hormozi said, after that, which ends up making you a success.
He just works he has a busy morning, and I'm not at all suggesting that you shouldn't have a morning routine or that you shouldn't get up ultra early. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that that's not going to be the answer.
And I will tell you, we're also in this era of this hyper work, you got to work 7 days a week, and what's it, hustle, something or other. Um, anyway, there's a kind of a term for it, but you about 8-9 years ago, maybe longer than that, I stopped working scheduled appointment. Well, I stopped working weekends because I wanted to spend time with my kids. Now, did that mean that I didn't answer the phone? No. Did it mean that I occasionally wouldn't show a house or do something that was a non-negotiable on the client's end if there was nothing else that would work? Yeah. So it wasn't like I never worked weekends, but I would say in the 12 months, 90 to 95% of the weekends I didn't work. And when I told people that I was going to do that, they were like, well, you're in real estate. You can't do that. Well, I delegated it out. I hired a showing agent. I had an assistant, right? But
Yeah.
but but that's so there isn't like a way to make this work.
The way to make it work is again, I get distracted very easily. I've got some version of, ADD for sure. So I just don't, I've become a lot less motivated now after 35 years. My kids are both out of college. I don't have to make a ton of money. Um, I'd rather help agents, and I still sell houses. But when I was really in the thick of it, where, I was completely focused on selling at least 100 homes a year, my only goal in the course of a day was to get an appointment with a buyer or a seller. If I did a buyer consult or got to walk through a FSBO's house or I got a call and got to go out on a listing appointment, that is really all I was focused on, one way or another. And if I didn't get one in one day, I made sure that I got 4 in a week. And I think a lot of people can learn from that. Not everybody's going to be able to look at a plan and follow that plan. But you have to focus on the actions that you're going to take, that you're going to commit to taking. And then, because if you're not going to do that, none of this other stuff matters. And the reason I wanted to talk today is because I've got a real problem with New Year's resolutions, because our time doesn't start over on January 1. And we don't even know if we'll have all of next year. One of my past clients got killed on a motorcycle last week. He was supposed to come to our client event. He's 46 years old. He got killed near your old house on the corner of Ira and Riverview. My point is that we take so much of our time for granted. And a lot of people, if they're having a rough year business-wise, not personal, I understand the division and throwing a wall up if you've had a bad year personally or health-wise or whatever. But with business, so many people, they start a goal, they don't have a clear path to reach that goal, then they give up, and then they just put the entire thing on ice until next year. Or they'll get to September, and then their relief, the deep breath, is that January 1's just around the corner. And we made that up.
Well,
January 1 is not a start over.
And to go along with that, Will, let's say that you have a goal to sell a certain amount of houses, and it's this big goal. And September comes around, and you're not even 50% of the way there. Okay, you're not even, let's say, 30% of the way there, because it's such a big goal. I think actually the negative outcome of that is, well, it was so audacious anyway. I was never going to hit it, so I'm doing okay. And then you just kind of fall into mediocrity, and then where do you go?
And you're okay with
right.
it.
And then where do you go? That's you're in this then mediocrity rut because you didn't hit this huge goal. You're kind of floundering. Okay, so you're making some money, but then what? And that's where I have a problem with.
I have a major problem with it. The big thing is that I just see, now I get to, I'm in my 50s, and I see people die or get really ill, or there's no guarantee of the time that we have. And I don't want to go and get, emotional and weird about it, but having, putting these goals out in front of us or we're going to get a fresh start on January 1, I think it's more damaging than not. Some people, the people that are consistent and the people that are doing the best they can at all times, they don't need New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions were designed for people that either want to have a clean slate or commit to doing something differently, and that's fine. But the reason that the vast majority of them fail is because there's a giant disconnect between saying, I'm going to sell 80 homes next year when I only sold 20 this year, and it almost seems like that's enough. And they get to post it on social media, and they get to say, I'm going to sell 80 homes next year, and everybody, commends them. But then they don't. It's kind of like when I did my business plan and I'd set it on my desk and never go back to it. There's never been a time that a New Year's resolution has paid a house payment or a car payment or a student loan payment or a credit card payment. It doesn't work. So for the vast majority of people, they're not going to, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like me saying this, but they're not going to make major changes in their life by making a New Year's resolution. There's going to be the few that do, but the vast majority of the people that need them aren't going to benefit from them. So if they would just make smaller goals or try to figure out the main reason. I mean, the why is sappy, but my why has always been, I don't want to look like an idiot in front of my wife. I don't want to have to pull my kids out of, private Catholic schools. I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to have to lose my car. I don't want to have the IRS coming after me. I was always thinking, now granted, it made me a nervous wreck for a lot of years, but the point is that I was always focused. That was my why, to be the quarterback in my household and not have my wife and kids look at me like it was okay if we ran out of money. So I was always just constantly focused on that. But I think you really need to look inside and have a reason, whether you call it a why or a reason, and then that reason needs to be able to carry you. But then you need to have a path.
Yep.
And if you don't hit that goal, you need to acknowledge before you make the commitment that if I don't hit that goal, it's okay, but I'm not going to give up entirely. So have a backup plan, maybe have a plan B and a plan C. Because too many of us have a plan A, it doesn't work out. And then we go, oh, well, better luck next time. And nobody's there to hold us accountable because nobody cares.
Yeah, I distinctly remember when I was 26 or 27, because my son, who's my oldest, he was born when I was 27. So at some point before he was born, I was sitting in the computer. I feel so old saying this, the computer lab or whatever, the computer bullpen area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The computer section of the office.
Yeah.
And I was sitting next to Allison McIntyre, actually, Allison Baranek now, but we were sitting there, and it was 2000. So he was born in 2009. So it was in 2009, and it was, I'd been licensed a year and a half. It couldn't have been worse. And I remember I was wearing my suit and tie, and I was doing a CMA for a house, and we were just talking about how bad just how awful the market is, and how hard it was because of the recession and all that stuff. And she looked at me and she said, well, the good news is at the time she was single, and I think we'd been married for a couple of years, but we didn't have kids. And she said, can you imagine if you had a kid to take care of? And we had not told anybody this. And I remember I just got like cold sweats. And so the reason that I thought of that was you were talking about your whys in your household. That was my why. I mean, it wasn't a sexy, no. It was, I
got to put a roof over this kid's head.
I have to make this work. It's not, there's no well, I guess, a pared down Civic is better than the Lexus or what, you know what I mean? It was, I have to get a roof over the head. I have to make sure the mortgage is paid. And so anyway, that was my why.
It makes me think. So if you've got to pick your client up at the airport at 6:00 and there's no way you won't show up, that's how my whole why is.
Yeah.
That feeling that I get if I'm like, I got to be there in an hour. And like, that's a hard, if you have to pick them up at 6 and it's 5, that's a hard 6:00.
Yeah.
You don't want to show up at 6:30 and have them waiting outside. So whatever it is that gives you that feeling of anxiety, you need to be able to assign that to other things in your life and your career. Yep. I want to add this one last thing that I had in my notes, and it's kind of silly, but you and I have been long distance runners for a long time, and you've run a bunch of marathons, and so have I, and I've gone farther than that. But one of the ways that I suffer from low motivation sometimes as well. And so one of the ways that I always got my miles in, if I knew that I needed to run 40 miles in a week, I didn't trust that I would get those miles in on my own. So I made all my runs, and to this day, every one of my runs in the week is with somebody else. So I made my runs appointments with other people. So I'm running with someone at 5:15 today, right? Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, I'm running with someone. I'm running with someone at Wednesday, Thursday, take Friday off, and then 2 on Saturday and Sunday. But my point is, I made the appointments kind of like picking someone up from the airport. If you make an appointment to run or prospect with somebody else, then they talk about the buddy system. Yeah. It can be very effective if you both take it seriously. Because if you're going to meet somebody to prospect and we're going to make our calls, or if I'm going to meet someone to go run 6 miles, I can't bail out because I've already said I'll be there at 5:15. Even if I'm not feeling well or I don't feel like doing it today or I want to sack out, then I still have to go. I can't text him, 10 minutes before I'm supposed to be there to meet him at Key Bank because they're going to be there already. And I did the same thing early on with my prospecting. I would have my cold calling and FSBO sessions with somebody else at my office. So my point is, you have to know your weaknesses. If you truly, truly want to be successful, then you have to identify the things that are going to stop you from getting there and come up with hacks to fill those gaps. Like me, it was making one appointment a day like you. You had your 10 no's because you knew that somewhere in there you're going to get a yes. So whatever it is you're going to have that's going to make you overcome your weaknesses, because we all have them. We all have weaknesses. Most of us that aren't on the spectrum are going to have some kind of a failure in our personality that's not going to be able to get us where we want to go. So you either have to bring other people in, you have to hire people that supplement your strengths, or if you're a real estate agent, you either need to commit to the actions that you're going to take and stick to them, or you need to bring somebody else in and have a buddy, an accountability partner. No matter how you need to do it to fix your weaknesses, because making a New Year's resolution and saying, I'm going to go to the gym, going to the gym in January, I mean, the parking lot's full, and then by the 5th week of the year, it's empty again. Well, we should all realize that we're not good at that.
And I think to use the analogy of running, and I think this is something that that can be used. I know it's something that can be used for the small steps equal small wins that end up equaling your large win or wins. Is I remember in the first marathon that I ran, it was the first training day that was a 16-mile run, and I had never ran that far in my life. And right. I think I was reading a book somebody gave me anyway, or maybe it was what somebody said, but they said, it said 16 miles or whatever that number is, isn't the hard part. The hardest part about the day is going to be putting on your running shoes. Because when you put the running shoes on, right, like if you're going to have slacks on and like a golf shirt, let's just say, and you're probably not going to be rocking out, you're like Hoka's or, whatever it is that you're wearing. So like you put your running shoes on to do what? To go take the first step of your run. So yeah. Whether it's a small little board for your nose or as you're driving around, you're seeing the for sale by owner signs, and you write them down in your little log, and you make sure that you make those calls. It's the small action that ends up creating the reaction for all the other things that you have in place, and none of that has anything to do with the vision board, a huge goal, how much money you want to make at the end of the year. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. One more thing I'll add: Quintavious Burdett, who's an amazing agent. He's in, I think he's in Mississippi. He's only like 27. He sells like 300 homes a year. But he played for Ole Miss. I think he was a running back. Very good football player. He made a point system just like they have with in football. So he would get 4 points a day. So if you got a listing appointment, it's a point. If you had a closing, it's a point. If you write an offer, it's a point. If you show a house, it's a half a point. And he would not leave the office till he got his 4 points a day. So those are tied to actions. They're tied to activities. So whatever you're doing, stop making your goal the end result. Like, I want to sell 70 homes this year, and tie it to the actions that you're going to take in a day. And then just come hell or high water, you got to make those, whether if you don't trust that you can get it done in a day, then you need to say, okay, like with me, if I want to run 40 miles in a week, then I run 25 by Friday, and I run 15 on the weekend, or I'll run 20 by Friday and run 20 on the weekend. So I would break it up in order to accommodate my weaknesses, because I know that I don't like being told you got to run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If I miss one, then I know I just have to run a bunch on Friday. And I just got that in my head. The other thing is, and it's so funny you said it, I have this little thing in me that if I put my running clothes on, if I take them off without going for a run, I'm a complete loser.
Yeah.
Right? I've just associated that with being a loser for me.
Yeah, you can't put them on and go to Krispy Kreme and grab yourself a donut and a coffee and go back home and get changed.
No. From the time I put my shoes on, my shirt, my shorts, my socks, and my shoes, I have to take a run. If I want to make my run shorter, but I can't just not go for a run. And that translates very well to business. You need to just figure out whatever it is in you, because everybody has it in them. There's a lot of most successful people in our business. They're all different, and they all get there in different ways. But the one thing, the one trait, the one thing that is common, and the silver thread that runs through all successful people, and in our business of being commissioned salespeople as real estate agents, is committing to the actions, knowing the reason we want to do it, and having anxiety around not doing it. Because if you just leave it be on its own, most people aren't going to have the strength to be able to do it and complete it week over week, month after month, and then year after year.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add?
It's going to be cliched, but I will add it. You aren't going to wake up on January 1 25 pounds lighter, right? If your goal is to lose 25 pounds, you're going to have to make small changes or drastic. Again, I don't think that works, but small changes to your diet and small changes to your physical exercise, and slowly progress from there, or keep it the same. Either way, you're not going to wake up 25 pounds lighter or 40 pounds lighter. It's the day in and day out constant changes and things that you're doing in your lifestyle that are going to get you there. And as a commission salesperson, in our case, selling real estate, it is the day in and day out changes and things that you should be implementing in your business that are going to equate to that X number, or that car you want to buy, or maybe you want to buy your first income producing property, or whatever the case is. That you're not going to wake up on January 1 with X amount of more dollars in the bank account.
No, and I've never had to I have huge respect for anyone that has to make big changes in their life, right? Like losing 100 pounds. No one, if you look at these TV shows where someone loses 100 pounds or 200 pounds, they never, if they've got a coach, they usually have some sort of a coach. They never focus on the 100 or 200 pounds. When I ran a 50-mile race, I wasn't thinking about the 50 miles. I was thinking about the next aid station. When someone's focusing on losing 100 pounds, if they focus on the 100, they're going to give up. It seems impossible. But 2 pounds a week for 50 weeks is 100 pounds. And when you see these people that lose a massive amount of weight in a healthy way over a year or 2 years, they end up getting into a routine where they'll lose a pound a week, and then they'll have a period of time where they're on a plateau, and then they'll lose 2 pounds in a week. And they start focusing on these small goals, just like you're talking about in reverse. You can apply that to being a successful real estate agent. Instead of losing 2 pounds in a week, you want to get 3 or 4 appointments or whatever, right? It's just, you can't think of selling the 70 homes in a year, the 100 homes in a year, the 30 homes in a year, if that's a big goal for you. You have to focus on the small little actions that will end up getting you where you want to be. And if you focus on those actions and take them seriously, such as losing the pound a week, or such as losing the pound a week, or getting the appointment a day, that is more than likely going to get you there. And if you look at the success of most people that do what we do, that's the way they do it.
Yep. 100% agree.
Thanks, guys. Hopefully you got some benefit out of this as you think towards going into 2024. Mark and I both agree. I know we talked about it. Next year is going to be a good year. I truly believe that we're in the worst market right this minute that we've seen in a long, long time. And I think once interest rates come down a little bit next year, I think there's going to be a floodgate the floodgate is going to open with buyers. I think the market's going to be really busy again. So right now you should just be focusing on what you're going to do to make your spring good. There's not much you can do to fix your December, January, and February right now. But depending on where you are in the country, it's cold here, and it's going to stay cold through about June. Probably it feels like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you should be thinking about what you can do to get your pipeline going for March, April, and May. And if you're going to do a New Year's resolution, you need to think about the actions you're going to take to get there, and have a plan B and a plan C.
I thoroughly enjoy talking about this stuff that we just talked about, this kind of topic. So if anybody that is listening to this has any questions or wants to reach out, I enjoy talking about this kind of stuff. So
we both do. In fact, Mark and I are so weird that we actually talk about this stuff like offline.
Yeah.
That's how weird we are. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
See you guys.
Everyone listening, and tell your friends about the Building Stronger Agents podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Building Stronger Agents podcast. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends.